Captain Daniel Hayes stood in the heart of the Valari royal palace, his expression calm even as anger simmered beneath the surface. Around him, the grand hall shimmered beneath the light of 3 golden suns pouring through towering crystal windows. Every wall had been carved from flawless translucent stone that scattered rainbows across the polished floor, making the palace seem less like a building and more like a monument of living light. The Valari nobility filled the chamber in silent elegance. Tall and impossibly graceful, their blue and silver skin glowed with a faint inner radiance, while flowing ceremonial robes drifted around them as though untouched by gravity. To them, beauty was power, and perfection was expected. Daniel looked completely out of place. He wore a simple diplomatic uniform with no jewels or elaborate ornaments, only the insignia of Earth on his chest. Before becoming humanity's envoy, he had spent 15 years as a military officer, and it showed. Tall, broad-shouldered, with brown hair beginning to gray at the temples, and sharp dark eyes that overlooked nothing, he carried himself like a man who had survived battlefields far more dangerous than any royal court. The glittering palace might have impressed everyone else. Daniel was too busy wondering why every instinct he had was telling him something was about to go terribly wrong. Right now those eyes watched the Valari Council with careful attention. "We offer you a great honor," High Council Zarv said. His voice was smooth like oil, but Daniel heard the mockery hidden underneath. "Princess Liravel, daughter of our Empress, will join your household as your bride. This will strengthen the bond between our peoples." The other Valari nobles made soft sounds of approval, but Daniel noticed something. Some of them were trying not to smile. Others looked away quickly when he glanced at them. This was not the behavior of people offering a real honor. Daniel had been on Terra for 6 months. He had learned their customs and their language. He had also learned their cruel sense of humor. The Valari thought humans were primitives who had barely learned to fly between stars. They tolerated Earth's presence in the Galactic Council, but did not respect it. "I am honored by this offer," Daniel said carefully. His translator device hummed as it converted his words to the musical Valari language. "May I ask why the Council has chosen to bestow such a gift?" Zarex's eyes glittered with amusement. "Princess Lyra is available for marriage. She has reached the proper age. It seems fitting that she should go to humanity's representative." Available? That was an interesting choice of words. Daniel made a mental note to investigate further before he gave his answer. "I must consult with my government." Daniel said, "Such an important matter requires proper consideration." "Of course," Zarvex replied. "We expect your answer within 3 days." That night, Daniel sat in his quarters at the human embassy and searched through every file he could access about Princess Lyra. His assistant, Lieutenant Ben Carter, brought him cup after cup of coffee as he read. "Found something, sir?" Ben asked. He was a young man with red hair and freckles, loyal and sharp. "Yes," Daniel said slowly. "Princess Lyra was declared barren 2 years ago. According to Valari medical experts, she cannot have children." Ben frowned. "Why does that matter?" "Because to the Valari, it matters more than anything," Daniel explained. "Their culture places enormous value on fertility and family lines. A woman who cannot bear children is considered broken, worthless. They would never marry her to one of their own nobles." Understanding dawned on Ben's face. "So they are giving her to you as an insult." "Exactly. They expect us either to refuse and lose face, or to accept and be humiliated when we realize what we have received." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "It is a carefully constructed trap. What will you do?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. "I will accept, of course." Ben looked shocked. "Sir, think about it, Ben. If we refuse, they win. They make us look weak and foolish. But if we accept with dignity, if we treat the princess with respect, we turn their insult back on them." Daniel's smile grew wider. "Besides, I will not let them use that woman as a pawn in their games. She deserves better than that." 3 days later, Daniel stood before the council again and announced his acceptance. He saw the flash of triumph in Zarex's eyes. The consul thought he had won. The wedding ceremony was held the next week. It was a cold, formal affair with no joy in it. Princess Lyriel entered the hall wearing white robes that shimmered like starlight. She was beautiful in the way the Valari were beautiful, with luminescent skin and large eyes that held both intelligence and deep sadness. She was smaller than most of her people, which made her almost the same height as Daniel. She did not look at him during the ceremony. She kept her eyes down, her face a perfect mask of composure, but Daniel saw how tightly she held her hands together. She was afraid and angry and ashamed all at once. The ceremony was performed in the ancient Valari style. They drank from a shared cup. They exchanged symbolic gifts. Daniel gave her a simple bracelet made of earth silver. She gave him a crystal that had belonged to her family for generations. Her hand shook slightly as she passed it to him. When it was over, Daniel offered her his arm. She hesitated for just a moment before taking it. Her touch was light, barely there, as if she feared contamination. They walked through the crowd of watching nobles. Daniel heard their whispers, saw their smirks. They thought this was hilarious. The primitive human stuck with a defective princess. Daniel kept his head high and his expression neutral. He led Lyra out of the hall with all the dignity he could muster. Their new quarters were in the human embassy, a set of rooms that had been hastily prepared for 2 people instead of 1. When the door closed behind them, Lyra finally pulled her arm free and stepped away from him quickly. "You do not need to pretend anymore," she said. Her voice was soft but bitter. "We are alone now. You may speak freely about your disappointment." Daniel looked at her carefully. Up close he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like someone expecting a blow. "I am not disappointed," he said quietly. She laughed, but it was a broken sound. "Do not lie to spare my feelings. I know what I am. I know what they told you. Barren, worthless, the perfect insult to give to the humans they despise." "They did not tell me," Daniel said. "I found out on my own." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "And you still accepted?" "Yes." "Why?" The question came out as almost a cry. "Why would you do that? You could have refused. Your people would have understood." Daniel moved to a chair and sat down, trying to appear unthreatening. "Because I will not let them use you as a weapon against my people, and because no one deserves to be treated as trash." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned away, her shoulders shaking. Daniel realized she was crying, though she made no sound. "I have my own quarters prepared," Daniel said gently. "You may have the bedroom. I will sleep in the side room. We will maintain appearances in public, but in private, you are free to do as you wish. I will not force anything upon you." She did not respond, but he saw her nod slightly. Daniel stood and walked to the side room, leaving her alone with her tears. As he prepared for bed in the small space, he wondered what he had gotten himself into, but he did not regret his choice. The Valari had meant to humiliate both him and the princess. Instead, Daniel would show them what it meant to be human. It meant treating people with dignity, even when others said they had none. In the main room, Lyra sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the silver bracelet on her wrist. It was simple and plain compared to Valari jewelry, but it was the first gift anyone had given her in 2 years that was not meant as mockery. She touched it gently and wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, she had not been given to a monster after all. The first 2 weeks were awkward and silent. Daniel went to his diplomatic meetings during the day. Lyra stayed in their quarters, reading or staring out the window at the crystal spires of her home world. They ate dinner together because appearances mattered, but they barely spoke. Daniel did not push her. He simply existed in her space, quiet and respectful. He asked her small questions about her day. He told her brief stories about Earth. Slowly, very slowly, the wall between them began to crack. It started on the 15th night. Daniel was reading reports on his datapad when Lyra spoke from across the room. "What is that?" she asked, pointing to his coffee cup. "Coffee," Daniel said. "It is a beverage from Earth. Would you like to try some?" She hesitated, then nodded. Daniel poured her a small cup and warned her it might be bitter. She took a careful sip and her face wrinkled in surprise. "It is terrible," she said. Daniel laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in weeks, and the sound seemed to surprise both of them. Most people add sweetener or cream. Here, try this. He added a bit of sugar to her cup. She tried again, and this time she did not hate it quite as much. They sat together in companionable silence, drinking coffee as the evening stretched on. After that, things got easier. Lyra began asking more questions about Earth and humans. Daniel answered honestly, even when the truth was not flattering. He told her about wars and pollution and mistakes, but he also told her about art and music and the stubborn human refusal to give up. "Your people sound chaotic," Lyra said one evening. "We are," Daniel agreed. "But we are also adaptable. When something does not work, we try something else. We do not always follow the rules." Lyra was quiet for a moment. "The Veltari have many rules. We have always followed them. My condition breaks the most important rule of all." "Tell me about it," Daniel said gently. "If you want to." And so she did. The words came slowly at first, then faster, like a dam breaking. She told him about the testing she had undergone at age 20, about the pronouncement that her body lacked the proper hormones for Veltari reproduction, about how her friends had stopped calling, how her family had grown distant, how she had become invisible in her own home. "I am a ghost," she said quietly. "I exist, but I do not matter." "You matter to me," Daniel said, "not as a political tool or a duty, as a person." Lyra looked at him with those large, sad eyes. "Why, I bring you nothing but shame. You bring yourself. That is enough." Something shifted between them that night. Trust, perhaps, or the beginning of friendship. A month after the wedding, Dr. Lisa Morgan arrived at the embassy. She was a xenobiologist from Earth, sent to study culture and medicine. She was a warm woman with gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She took one look at Lyra and declared they would be friends. "I have read about your people's reproductive biology," Lisa said over tea. One afternoon, the three of them sat in the embassy garden surrounded by earth plants that Daniel had imported. "It is fascinating," Lyra stiffened. "You mean my failure is fascinating?" "No," Lisa said firmly. "I mean the biology is fascinating. Your doctors declared you barren." "Yes, yes." "Based on what tests?" Lyra explained the Veltari medical procedures. Lisa listened carefully, asking questions and making notes on her datapad. "Interesting," Lisa said when Lyra finished. "Your doctors are correct that you lack certain hormones, but that does not necessarily mean you cannot conceive. It means your body does not produce the right triggers naturally." Hope flickered in Lyra's eyes, then died. "Many doctors have examined me. They all say the same thing. Veltari doctors," Lisa pointed out, "who use Belthari medicine and Veltari assumptions about biology. Human medicine is different. We have treatments for hormone deficiencies. We have assisted reproductive technologies. What is impossible for your people might not be impossible for mine." Daniel saw Lyra's hands begin to shake. "Are you saying I might be able to have children?" "I am saying it is worth investigating," Lisa said carefully. "I make no promises, but I would like to examine you if you are willing, not as a curiosity, but as a patient." Lyra looked at Daniel. He saw the fear and hope wearing in her expression. "It is your choice," he said quietly. "Whatever you decide, I support you." "I want to try," Lyra whispered. "I want to try." The examination took place the next day in the embassy's medical bay. Lisa worked carefully, using both human and adapted Veltari equipment. She took samples and ran tests. Daniel waited outside, pacing like an expectant father, which made him smile grimly at the irony. When Lisa emerged 3 hours later, she was smiling. "I need to do more research, but I think we have a chance. Her reproductive system is intact. The problem is purely hormonal. With the right treatment, we might be able to trigger ovulation." "Might?" Daniel asked. "Science is not magic, Daniel. I cannot promise anything, but I think we should try." They presented the option to Lyra that evening. She listened to Lisa's careful explanation of the proposed treatment. It would involve hormone injections over several months. It would be uncomfortable. It might not work. "And if it does work," Lyra asked, "then you might be able to conceive naturally," Lisa said. "The child would be a hybrid, of course. Part TR, part human. We do not know what that might mean." "Your people would be outraged," Lyra said to Daniel. "A hybrid child is forbidden by Veltari law." "We are not on Veltari anymore," Daniel said. We will be going to Earth soon. People do not have such laws. Lyra stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the crystal spires at the home that had rejected her. Then she turned back to them. I want to do this not because I need a child to have worth, but because I want the choice. I want to decide my own fate. Then we will try. Lisa said the next month was busy with preparations. Daniel's assignment on Valara was ending. He would be returning to Earth, and Lyra would come with him as his wife. The Valari Council seemed pleased to be rid of them both. On their last night on Valara, Daniel and Lyra stood together on the embassy balcony. The three suns had set, and the crystal city glowed with artificial light. "Are you afraid?" Daniel asked. "Terrified," Lyra admitted. "I have never left this world. Everything on Earth will be strange." "It will be strange," Daniel agreed. "But you will not be alone. I will be there. Lisa will be there. And I promise you, we will treat you with respect." Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched him since the wedding. "I believe you," she said softly. "You are a strange man, Daniel Hayes. You accept what others reject. You try what others say is impossible. That is what humans do," Daniel said with a smile. "We are too stubborn to know when to quit." The ship that took them to Earth was called the New Horizon. It was a 6-week journey through space. During that time, Lisa began the hormone treatments. Lyra experienced headaches and nausea. Daniel sat with her through the difficult nights, bringing her water and telling her stories about Earth. They talked about everything, about families and dreams and fears, about what it meant to belong somewhere. Daniel told her about losing his parents young, about his years in the military, about feeling like he never quite fit anywhere. Lyra told him about growing up in a palace where perfection was expected, about the pressure to be a proper princess, about the loneliness of being considered broken. "We are both outsiders," Lyra said one night. "You among the Valari, me among my own people. Then we will be outsiders together," Daniel said. Somewhere over those 6 weeks, something changed. Friendship deepened into affection. Affection grew into something stronger. They did not speak of it directly, but it was there in the gentle touches, in the way they looked at each other, in the comfortable silences. When the New Horizon entered Earth's orbit, Lyra pressed her face to the viewing port and stared at the blue and green planet below. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "Welcome home," Daniel said, and for the first time since leaving Veltara, Lyra smiled with real joy. Earth was overwhelming. Lyra had prepared herself for differences, but nothing could have truly readied her for the chaos and beauty of humanity's home world. The air smelled different from Tara, richer and heavier. The colors were more vibrant, and there were so many humans rushing about their lives with energy that made her dizzy. Daniel took her to his home in Colorado, a modest house in the mountains. It was simple compared to the palace she had grown up in, but it felt warm in a way her old home never had. There were books on shelves and pictures on walls. There was a garden outside where vegetables grew in cheerful disorder. "It is not much," Daniel said, watching her explore with worried eyes. "It is wonderful," Lyra said honestly. "It feels lived in, loved." They settled into a routine. Daniel worked from home most days, handling his diplomatic duties through video calls and reports. Lyra spent her time learning about Earth. She read human books and watched human shows. She learned to cook human food, though her first attempts were disasters that made Daniel laugh until he cried. Every week they traveled to Geneva, where Dr. Richard Klein ran the Xenobiology Research Center. Dr. Klein was older than Lisa, with white hair and sharp blue eyes. He had taken on Lyra's case with enthusiasm, assembling a team of experts to help. The treatments continued. Some days were harder than others. Lyra experienced mood swings and physical discomfort, but Daniel was patient. On bad days, he held her while she cried. On good days, they went for walks in the mountains or visited nearby towns. "You are too kind to me," Lyra said one evening. They sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "I am treating you the way you deserve to be treated," Daniel replied. "The Valari would say you are weak. That compassion is a flaw. Then I am glad I am human and not Valari." Daniel took her hand in his. They had been holding hands more often lately. It felt natural now. "Lyra, I need to tell you something." She looked at him, concerned by his serious tone. "These last months, getting to know you, spending time with you, it has been the happiest I have been in years." Daniel paused, choosing his words carefully. "This started as a political arrangement, but it has become something else for me. I have feelings for you. Real feelings." Lyra's luminescent skin glowed brighter, which Daniel had learned meant she was experiencing strong emotion. "I feel the same way. I did not want to say anything. I thought perhaps you were only being kind." "I am being honest," Daniel said. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "I love you, Lyra. I love you too," she whispered. "It frightens me how much." They kissed for the first time under that Colorado sunset. It was sweet and tentative and perfect. After that, their relationship changed again. They were not just partners or friends. They were truly husband and wife. They moved together into the same bedroom. They learned each other's habits and preferences. They built a life together. 6 months after arriving on Earth, Lyra woke up feeling strange. Her stomach was unsettled. She felt tired, despite sleeping well. At first, she thought it was a side effect of the treatments, but when the feeling persisted for several days, Lisa insisted on running tests. Daniel drove Lyra to the clinic in Geneva. He held her hand in the waiting room while Dr. Klein ran blood work and scans. The wait felt eternal. Lyra tried to prepare herself for disappointment. The treatments might not work. Everyone had said so. When Dr. Klein entered the room, his face was unreadable. Then he smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. "Congratulations," he said. "You are pregnant." Lyra could not breathe. The words did not make sense. "What? You are approximately 8 weeks pregnant. The embryo is healthy and developing normally. It appears to be a successful hybrid." Daniel made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He pulled Lyra into his arms and held her tightly. She clung to him, unable to process what she was hearing. "Are you certain?" she asked Dr. Klein. "There is no mistake." "I am certain," he said kindly. "We will monitor you closely. Of course, this is new territory for all of us. But yes, Lyra, you are going to be a mother." She started crying, then great heaving sobs of joy and relief and disbelief. All those years of being told she was broken, that she was worthless, that she could never have this, and now it was happening. It was real. Daniel held her and cried too. Lisa came in and hugged them both, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Klein and his team were celebrating in the hallway. It was a moment of pure joy, but joy has a way of attracting attention. The news leaked within days. Someone on Dr. Klein's team told a friend. That friend told a reporter. Within a week, the story was everywhere. Human media celebrated it as a triumph of medical science, but the Galactic news networks had a different reaction. The Valari response was swift and harsh. High Consul Zarvex appeared on every major broadcast, declaring the pregnancy impossible and likely a hoax. Other Valari officials demanded that Lyra return home for proper examination. Some called the hybrid child an abomination. Other alien species weighed in with opinions. Some were supportive, impressed by human medical achievement. Others were skeptical or hostile. The pregnancy became a political controversy that reached the highest levels of the Galactic Council. Daniel and Lyra tried to ignore the noise. They focused on each other and the tiny life growing inside her, but the pressure kept building. Then came the threat. It arrived as a message through official diplomatic channels. High Consul Zarvex demanded that Lyra return to Valara immediately. If she did not, there would be consequences for Earth's standing in the Galactic Council. "They want to discredit you." Ben Carter said he had traveled to Colorado to discuss security concerns with Daniel. "They will claim the pregnancy is fake or that we somehow forced you into this." "I will not go back there," Lyra said firmly. Her hand rested protectively on her stomach, which was just beginning to show a small bump. "They gave me away. I'm not theirs anymore. We will not make you go anywhere," Daniel assured her, but he looked worried. The situation escalated when Earth's intelligence services intercepted communications about a possible kidnapping attempt. A faction of Valari extremists were planning to take Lyra by force. "We need to move you to a secure location," Ben said. "Somewhere they cannot reach you." Daniel did not hesitate. "Do it." Within 24 hours, they relocated to a hidden facility deep in the Rocky Mountains. It was a government safe house, heavily guarded and equipped with advanced security systems. Lisa and Dr. Klein came with them along with a full medical team. The months that followed were strange. Lyra was safe, but confined. She could not go outside freely. Every window was monitored. Armed guards stood at every entrance. It felt like being in a beautiful prison, but Daniel never left her side. He worked from the facility and spent every free moment with her. They prepared for the baby together, reading parenting books and picking out names. Despite the tension and fear, there was also happiness. Lyra's pregnancy progressed well. The baby was a girl, half human and half Valari. The doctors marveled at how seamlessly the two genetic codes had merged. She had inherited traits from both parents in ways no one had predicted. "She is going to be extraordinary," Dr. Klein said during an exam. "A true bridge between two species." "She is going to be loved," Lyra corrected. "That is what matters." Outside the safe house, the political firestorm raged on. Earth's representatives fought in the Galactic Council to defend Lyra's rights. Human media rallied behind her story. Support groups formed. The pregnancy had become a symbol of something larger than one woman and one child. But inside the safe house, Lyra and Daniel existed in their own small world. They talked to their daughter through Lyra's stomach. They felt her kick and move. They dreamed about her future. "What kind of life will she have?" Lyra asked one night as they lay in bed. "With all this controversy, all this attention." "She will have a life filled with love," Daniel said. "She will have parents who chose each other and chose her. She will have 2 worlds worth of heritage, and she will have the strength to handle whatever comes." "I hope you are right." "I am always right," Daniel said with mock seriousness. Lyra laughed and hit him with a pillow, which started a gentle wrestling match that ended in kisses. As Lyra's due date approached, the tension outside grew worse. But inside the safe house, there was only anticipation and hope. They had done the impossible. Now they just needed to bring their miracle safely into the world. The Galactic Council chamber on Axis Prime Station was packed. Representatives from 50 species filled the massive circular room, each in their designated section. The human delegation sat in seats that still looked new compared to the ancient stations around them. Earth had only been part of the Council for 15 years, and they were reminded of their newcomer status every day. Senator Chris Warren stood at the human podium. He was a career diplomat with gray temples and a calm demeanor that hid a steel core. Today he needed every bit of that strength. "This body has no authority to demand the return of Princess Lyra," he said firmly. His voice echoed through the translation systems. "She is an adult who made her own choice. She is married to a human citizen. She carries a child. Earth will not surrender her to political pressure." High Consul Zarbek rose from the Valari section. His blue skin seemed to glow with barely contained rage. "The humans stole our princess. They subjected her to barbaric medical experiments. They created an abomination that violates natural law." "We stole no one," Chris replied. "The Valari Council gave her to us. In fact, they were quite insistent about it." "Should I play the recording of that ceremony?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. They all knew the truth about why Lyra had been given to the humans. It had been meant as an insult, a joke. Now that joke had backfired spectacularly. The princess was confused and vulnerable, Zarvex countered. She did not understand what she was agreeing to. "Then let her speak for herself," Chris said. "Or are you afraid of what she might say?" More murmurs. The Valari delegation huddled together in angry consultation. Finally, Zarv spoke again. "Very well. We demand the princess address this council and explain herself." Granted, the council speaker said she was a member of the ancient Cray species, her scaled face neutral. Princess Lyravel will address the council via communication link. Given her condition, physical travel would be unwise. 3 days later, the council chamber assembled again. A massive holographic projection filled the center of the room. When it activated, Lyra appeared life-sized and clear. She stood in a simple room wearing human clothing, a loose dress that accommodated her pregnant belly. Her luminescent skin glowed with health. Her eyes were calm and determined. Beside her, though not part of the transmission, Daniel stood watching with pride and fear. "Members of the Galactic Council," Lyra began. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. "I am Princess Lyriel, daughter of Empress Silavevel of the Volari. I address you today as a free woman and as a voice for the voiceless." She paused, letting that sink in. 2 years ago, I was declared barren by Volari medical authorities. In my culture, this made me worthless. I was no longer suitable for marriage. I was no longer worthy of respect. I became invisible in my own home. Sarvesk started to speak, but the council speaker gestured for silence. When the Volari Council decided to give me to Captain Daniel Hayes, they did not tell him about my condition. They expected him to discover it later and reject me, causing embarrassment to Earth. Or they expected him to accept his fate and live with the shame of a barren wife. Lyra's voice grew stronger. What they did not expect was that he would treat me like a person who mattered. She told them about Daniel's kindness, about the human doctors who saw possibilities where Volari doctors saw only failure, about being given a choice for the first time in 2 years. The humans did not force me to undergo treatment. They offered it and let me decide. They did not promise success. They promised to try. That is more than my own people ever gave me. The chamber was silent. Every species watched the glowing princess speak truth to power. Now I am pregnant. The child growing inside me is healthy and strong. She is half Volari and half human. She is proof that what my people called impossible was simply untried. Lyra placed her hand on her belly, and she is proof that humanity sees value where others see only problems. "You speak of choice," Zarvex called out, "but you were confused and emotional. The humans took advantage of your vulnerable state." "I was vulnerable," Lyra agreed, "but not because of the humans. I was vulnerable because my own people had spent 2 years telling me I was broken and worthless. The humans were the first ones who told me I was neither." She looked directly at the Volari delegation. "You gave me away as a joke, as an insult to beings you consider primitive. You wanted to humiliate both me and Earth. Instead, you showed the entire galaxy the difference between cruelty and compassion." The speech rippled across the galaxy. Within hours, it was being broadcast on every major news network. Support for Lyra swelled among the younger generation of many species. Old certainties were being questioned, but with support came danger. Back at the safe house in Colorado, security detected increased chatter from Volari extremist groups. Ben Carter stood in the command center studying threat assessments and surveillance reports. "They are getting more organized," he told Daniel. "The extremists believe Lyra's child is an abomination against their gods. They think killing the baby will restore cosmic balance or some nonsense like that. Let them try," Daniel said grimly. "They will have to go through me first, and me," Ben added. "But we should increase security anyway." They added more guards. They installed additional surveillance. They ran drills for various attack scenarios. The safe house became a fortress. Lyra tried to stay calm for the baby's sake, but Daniel could see the stress taking its toll. She had difficulty sleeping. She jumped at unexpected sounds. The joy of impending motherhood was being overshadowed by fear. "I am sorry," she told Daniel one night. "This is my fault. If I had stayed quiet, if I had not spoken out, then you would not be you," Daniel said. "And I love you for exactly who you are. Brave and honest and strong. I do not feel strong. I feel scared. Strength and fear are not opposites. Strength is being scared and doing what is right anyway." He held her close. "We will get through this. All 3 of us." Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening on Volara. Councillor Drevuk, an elder statesman who had stayed silent during the controversy, requested a private meeting with Empress Silave. The Empress had not spoken publicly since her daughter's departure. She was ancient even by Volari standards. Her skin faded to pale silver, her eyes carrying the weight of centuries. She received Drevo in her private chambers. "Your Majesty," he began carefully, "the situation with your daughter has become untenable. The council is divided. Young Volari are questioning our traditions. We must act." "What would you have me do?" the Empress asked. Her voice was soft, but carried authority that made strong men tremble. Denounce her. Declare the hybrid child an abomination. Restore order. The Empress was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Tell me, Dravok, do you know why I allowed the council to give Lyra to the humans? He looked confused. Because she was barren. She had no value. No. I allowed it because I wanted to see what humanity would do. I wanted to test them. The Empress rose from her seat with surprising grace. The council thought they were playing a clever game. They thought they would humiliate the humans and dispose of my daughter at the same time. 2 problems solved. She walked to a window overlooking her crystal city, but I knew my daughter. I knew she was strong and intelligent and worthy. I knew she only needed a chance. So I gave her one. I sent her to a people who value innovation over tradition, who see possibilities instead of limitations. You planned this? Dravok was shocked. I allowed it. There is a difference. The Empress turned back to him. And now my daughter carries a child that should be impossible. She has shown our people that our rigid rules are chains, not wisdom. She has become more powerful as an exile than she ever was as a princess. What will you do? I will do what I should have done years ago. I will choose my daughter over my council. The announcement came 3 days later. Empress Silov would address the Galactic Council. The chamber was even more packed than before. Everyone wanted to hear what the ancient ruler would say. When the Empress appeared in holographic form, every being in the chamber fell silent. She was legendary, having ruled for over 300 years. Her word was law among her people. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, I come before you to speak truth that has been buried beneath pride and tradition. She told them about the Council's plot to humiliate Earth. She revealed that several council members, including Zarvex, had deliberately concealed Lyra's condition to manufacture embarrassment. She exposed the cruelty that had been inflicted on her own daughter. My daughter did not betray the Valari. The Valari betrayed her. The Empress's voice rang with authority. She sought help where we refused to give it. She found love where we offered only scorn. And now she will bring forth a child that represents hope for countless Valari who have been told they are broken. The camera switched to show Zarvex's face, and it was a picture of horror. Effective immediately, I am removing High Council Zarvex and his co-conspirators from their positions. They will face justice for their actions. The Empress looked directly at the camera. To my daughter Lyra, I say this. I am proud of you. I am sorry for my silence, and I welcome you home should you ever wish to return. The political situation reversed overnight. The Valari extremists lost their political backing. Earth's position strengthened, and Lyra received a message from her mother asking for forgiveness and offering support. Will you forgive her? Daniel asked after Lyra had cried through reading the message 3 times. I do not know, Lyra said honestly. She let me suffer for 2 years, but she also gave me the chance to find you. I need time to process this. Take all the time you need. Daniel said, we are not going anywhere. The baby came on a rainy spring morning in Colorado. The birth was long and difficult, but Lyra was strong. Daniel held her hand through every contraction, whispering encouragement and love. Dr. Klein and his team monitored everything carefully, ready for any complication. When the baby finally arrived, she let out a strong, healthy cry that filled the room with joy. Dr. Klein placed her on Lyra's chest, and both parents broke into tears. She was perfect. Her skin had a soft, luminescent glow like her mother's, but her features were a blend of both human and Dari. She had her father's dark eyes and her mother's elegant bone structure. She was small but strong, her tiny hands gripping Lyra's finger with surprising power. Hello, Emma, Lyra whispered. They had chosen the name weeks ago, Emma meaning whole or universal. It felt right. Daniel kissed Lyra's forehead and then gently touched his daughter's cheek. She is beautiful, just like her mother. The room was full of people. Lisa Morgan was crying openly. Ben Carter grinned so wide his face hurt. Dr. Klein and his team documented everything, but their clinical focus was mixed with genuine emotion. This was not just a successful hybrid birth. This was proof that impossible things could become real. Representatives from the Galactic Council had been present as neutral observers, per the agreement worked out after Empress Silavevel's intervention. A Krell diplomat and a representative from the neutral Tor collective had witnessed the birth. They could confirm to the galaxy that the pregnancy had been real, that the birth was successful, and that the child was healthy. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Emma Hayes became the most famous baby in known space. Human media celebrated. Scientific journals prepared special editions. And quietly in medical facilities across dozens of women who had been declared barren began asking about human treatment options. For 3 months, Daniel and Lyra lived in a bubble of new parenthood. Emma was a good baby, alert and curious. She had inherited heightened senses from her mother and a strong immune system from her father. She seemed to process information faster than typical human infants. Dr. Klein was fascinated, but Lyra was just grateful her daughter was healthy. Then came the request. The Galactic Council formally invited Princess Lyra to address them in person along with her daughter. It was phrased as an invitation, but everyone understood it was really a summons. The galaxy wanted to see the miracle child with their own eyes. "You do not have to go," Daniel said. They sat in their living room while Emma slept in her crib nearby. "We can refuse." "No," Lyra said quietly. "We cannot hide forever. And I want them to see her. I want them to see what love and hope can create." "Then we go together," Daniel said firmly. "All 3 of us." The journey to Axis Prime Station took 2 weeks. They traveled on a diplomatic vessel with maximum security. Lisa and Ben came with them, along with a full security detail. Reporters from every major news network tried to get exclusive access. The interest was overwhelming. Lyra spent the journey preparing. She wrote and rewrote her speech. She nursed Emma, and played with her, and tried not to think about standing before the people who had once mocked her. Daniel helped her practice offering suggestions and support. "Remember," he said, "you are not the same person they cast aside. You are a mother, a pioneer, a bridge between worlds. They should be honored that you agreed to speak to them." When they arrived at Axis Prime, the station was in chaos. Security was triple the normal level. Protesters from various species lined the docking areas, some supporting Lyra, others condemning her. The family was rushed through secure corridors to private quarters. The day of the address arrived. The council chamber was filled beyond capacity with standing room only. Every species had sent their most important representatives. Cameras from hundreds of networks focused on the center stage. Daniel and Lyra walked into the chamber together. He wore his formal diplomatic uniform. She wore a traditional Valari robe that had been modified to accommodate nursing. With Emma in a carrier against her chest, the baby was awake and calm, her large eyes taking in the strange sights. The room went silent as they approached the central podium. Every eye was on Emma. She was real. She was here. The impossible child lived and breathed and looked back at them with innocent curiosity. Lyra stepped to the podium while Daniel stood beside her. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Members of the Galactic Council, honored representatives, I am Lyra Vel Hayes. I stand before you as a mother, a wife, and a living example of what happens when we choose hope over despair." She told her story again, but this time with the weight of victory behind her words. She spoke of pain and rejection, of finding love in unexpected places, of medical science that refused to accept failure. "This is my daughter Emma," Lyra said, gently adjusting the baby so the cameras could see her better. "She is 3 months old. She is healthy and happy. She is half Filthari and half human. She is proof that the barriers we build between ourselves are often illusions." Emma chose that moment to make a small cooing sound. It echoed through the chamber sound system and several beings actually laughed. "My people told me I was broken," Lyra continued. "They said I could never be a mother. They were wrong. Not because I was not barren by their standards, but because those standards were incomplete. What one species calls impossible, another calls a challenge to overcome." She looked directly at the Valari delegation. High Consul Zarx was not among them. He had been removed from power and disgraced. In his place sat younger, more progressive members. "I do not speak here today to condemn the Valari. They are my people and I love them. But I do condemn the rigid thinking that values tradition over truth. I condemn the cruelty that discards those who do not fit perfect molds. And I celebrate the courage it takes to try something new." She paused, gathering herself for the final part of her speech. "Humanity is young compared to most species here. They have been part of this council for barely 15 years. Many of you still see them as primitives, but I have lived among them. I have been loved by one of them. And I tell you this, humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their weapons. It is their refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." Lyra looked down at Emma, who was staring up at her with those intelligent eyes. "My daughter will grow up in two worlds. She will learn Valari grace and human determination. She will be a bridge if she chooses. But more than that, she will be herself, and that is all any parent can hope for their child." The speech ended. For a moment, there was silence. Then someone started clapping. It was Senator Chris Warren standing and applauding. Others joined in. Soon half the chamber was on their feet, clapping and making their species equivalent gestures of approval. The other half sat in silence, uncomfortable with the implications of what Lyra represented. But even they could not deny the truth standing before them. After the speech, something unexpected happened. Empress Silivelle requested a private meeting. The ancient ruler had traveled to Axis Prime personally, something she rarely did. They met in a private chamber. The Empress looked at Lyra, and then at Emma, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she smiled. "May I hold her?" she asked. Lyra hesitated only briefly before passing Emma to her mother. The Empress cradled the baby with surprising gentleness. "She has your eyes," the Empress said, "and your father's stubbornness, I suspect." "Mother," Lyra began, but the Empress raised a hand. "I failed you. I let politics and pride matter more than your happiness. I told myself I was teaching you strength through adversity, but I was really just being a coward." The Empress looked at her daughter with tears in her ancient eyes. "Can you forgive me?" Lyra took Emma back and held her close. "I do not know if I can forgive completely. Not yet. The pain is still too fresh. But I can try. For Emma's sake, if not for mine. That is more than I deserve." The Empress said, "I would like to know my granddaughter if you will allow it." "We will see," Lyra said carefully. "Time will tell." The Empress accepted this with grace. Then she made an announcement that shocked everyone. She was establishing a joint Valari human medical research program funded by the Royal Treasury. The goal was to help other women who had been declared barren. Lyra would serve as an advisor if she chose. The political situation transformed completely. The Valari signed a formal alliance with Earth. Other species began requesting human medical consultations. Emma became a symbol of cooperation between species. But for Daniel and Lyra, the most important changes were personal. They returned to their home in Colorado, to the mountains and the garden and the simple life they had built together. They raised Emma with love and patience, teaching her about both heritages. On Emma's first birthday, they hosted a small party. Lisa and Ben came. Dr. Klein brought a ridiculous toy that Emma loved. And surprisingly, Empress Silivelle sent a gift, a crystal that had belonged to the royal family for generations, along with a note saying it was Emma's birthright. That evening, after the guests had left and Emma was asleep, Daniel and Lyra sat on their porch watching the stars. The same porch where Daniel had first told Lyra he loved her. The same view they had shared through joy and fear and everything between. "Do you ever regret it?" Daniel asked. "Leaving your world, everything you gave up." Lyra took his hand and laced their fingers together. "I gave up nothing that mattered. I left behind pain and found love. I left behind limitations and found possibilities. I left behind who I was expected to be and became who I was meant to be." She looked through the window at their sleeping daughter. "They gave me to you as a joke, as an insult. They thought I was worthless, and they wanted to humiliate you. But they gave me the greatest gift imaginable. They gave me a chance. They gave me a gift, too," Daniel said. "They gave me you." Emma made a small sound in her sleep. Both parents smiled at the familiar noise. Their daughter, their miracle, their bridge between worlds. Lyra leaned against Daniel's shoulder. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for believing when everyone said it was impossible. Thank you for choosing me always," Daniel said, kissing the top of her head. "In every universe, in every possibility, I would choose you." Above them, stars twinkled in the Colorado night. Human stars and alien stars, and stars that belonged to no one and everyone. Emma would grow up under these stars, learning about both her worlds, carrying the best of both species. She would face challenges, certainly, but she would also have love and support, and two parents who had proven that impossible things could become real. The barren princess had returned as a mother, but more than that, she had returned as herself, strong, whole, and finally free.